Northern Ireland, a land famous for its scenery, culture, and in the last century, its troubles. The country was put under decades of violence in a conflict described as a guerrilla war. Leaving the biggest cities to rubble, the Troubles forced a divide upon societies which is still apparent today. Following the Brexit referendum, there is worry from both sides of the border as to what could happen, and if the dark days could return. From the big cities to the small towns, the effect of the Troubles was detrimental, with villages such as Borderlands being affected more than most. Being the most western settlement in the UK, Borderlands is situated directly on the Irish border, and even though the now quaint village is only home to 900 people, violence was never far. Commercial targets were often attacked throughout the Troubles, and Borderlands Carlton Hotel, now called Glen Eden, was bombed countless times. Placed 100 yards from the border and just a street away from the British Army barracks in the village, business couldn't have been more difficult for owner Michael McGrath.
Borderlands was a bombed, I'd say, every 6 months, or it was attacked from somewhere, or there was some entertainment. The hotel on the 20th of June in 1979 was totally and utterly destroyed, and the place was blitzed, and Borderlands Street was blitzed. Those hotels were something extreme, I don't know, where people gathered, where it was an effect, where people could see that there was misbehaviour and that there was, I don't know why they were targets, no.
With uncertainty surrounding Brexit and Ireland's borders, there is the worry that only bad could come from this. Over 2 decades of building cross-border relationships, and there is still some fragility there, which raises the question, could conflict return?
There is no border. See, there hasn't been a border since Ireland and England joined, or Ireland joined the EU. And everything that was done since was to get rid of it. The only thing that hasn't got rid of is in people's minds. There's still north and south, you know. But that day won't come back when Brexit comes, you know. I don't think. No, because it's all over, I think. Yeah. No. And that was terrible. Yeah.
Borderlands became a primary target for violence, with areas along the border experiencing more bombs, deaths and injuries than anywhere outside of Belfast. With the village being on the border, the community was split both geographically and philosophically, with friends and even neighbours sometimes being from different sides. The McGrath family have lived in Borderlands for generations, and living on the border throughout the worst of the Troubles was tough, but these sisters knew no different.
They all mingle into one, don't they, sort of thing, you know, and it feels like it's such a long time ago now, but it's like you always want to forget that time as well, because it's like you don't want to think about it. And even mentioning the word like Troubles, it's almost like it's sort of, people don't really want to talk about it easily, don't they?
No.
Yeah.
No, it stirs up kind of like bad feelings for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think to put a border anywhere, once you put barriers up, whether they're invisible or non-invisible, it still creates that atmosphere where people are going to try and outsmart the system. So I think it also creates a difference in people again. Ireland as a whole is an island, one island, and yes, it's got Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, but that makes that difference even greater now.
Mainly because of the position of the town and the fact that Southern Ireland was literally just across the river, a lot of incidences happen from that point actually.
And it has a high viewpoint as well.
Yeah, there is an easy escape back into the south again. Sort of, the town sort of zigzags, doesn't it, over the border, and then you're in the south, and then you're in the north again, and then you're in the south again.
When the Troubles started, I hadn't actually been born at the time, so I grew up within the Troubles, so I basically knew nothing else. But when Good Friday Agreement happened, there seemed to be a much more relaxed sense everywhere.
Borderlands and its outskirts cross over the border at many points, only noticeable today by the change of speed limits, which is measured metrically in the Republic of Ireland. If a hard border was to be implemented, it would have a huge effect on places like Borderlands, not only from the perspective that conflict could be reignited, but from the new restrictions that may be put in place. There is talk that passports will be needed and old customs could be reintroduced when crossing the border. 8 miles away into the Republic of Ireland lies the small seaside town of Bundoran, another place that has in the past felt the negative effects of a hard border. Gale force winds often flood this coastal town, however more recently it is the air of uncertainty concerning locals. With Brexit negotiations ongoing, the people of Ireland have been left to guess what the fate of their border will be. Former Mayor and Councillor Michael McMahon is not favourable of any changes.
We have a very difficult situation regarding Brexit because, as you know, the border is basically just a line now, and in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people, it's an imaginary line. But we seem to be going back instead of forward with the implementation of Brexit, if it ever materialises. You know, there is a doubt out there about it at this particular time. There's different views in it. But certainly what people wouldn't want would be a hard border. And according to what we are led to believe, that there will be a border of some description, whether it be a soft border or a hard border, and I don't really know what the difference is between a soft border and a hard border, and I'd like somebody in the British government to tell me what they're really thinking about it. Looking at Europe will definitely, in my opinion, impose a border, and that will be detrimental to places like Donegal, Cavan and Monaghan, because they're so close to the border. In actual fact, it will be detrimental to Ireland in general. It certainly will have a major effect on towns like Bundoran, and we, as I said, depend totally on tourism, and we want no interruption of any description. During the time of the Troubles, Bundoran was affected, but thanks be to God we've got rid of all that, and we're hoping to move on forward. But I think this is a bad decision. This is bad politics, and this is bad for Bundoran, and this is bad for Ireland in general.
Brexit and a hard border would damage tourism-reliant towns such as Bundoran, as ease of access from Northern Ireland and Britain would be taken away. Businesses such as the Allingham Hotel have seen a difference since the Good Friday Agreement 20 years ago, making owner Elizabeth McIntyre wary of the Brexit changes.
You don't want to see a border there. It's lovely to have the free travel and to be able to come in and out. I suppose it has helped relationships between North and South as well, you know, and I suppose traditionally years ago you wouldn't have had a lot of Protestants would have travelled down south for holidaying or that, and there has been an awful lot more of that now, I have to say, you know, and very, very nice people. You know, you would never have had that opportunity before to have met people like that because they just didn't come down because I suppose the borders really. From a business point of view, to see the border back, I suppose it's going to put people off travelling to a certain extent. Speaking in general, I would say over sort of the whole town, chatting most people, they were about 10% down last year on year, where we had been pulling out of our recession. It has just took us a step back again.
Northern Ireland is the place which will be impacted the most by Brexit, perhaps why the vast majority of the nation voted to stay within the EU. In a land that still has walls segregating its biggest cities, despite peace being made over 20 years ago, there is a fear that old feelings may not be so far from the surface. Emotionally, psychologically and economically, Brexit and the border could send Ireland back to its troubled past.